Hello, boys and girls. Well, it's time again for some Ivan. And it sounds like you guys enjoyed the reading last week, and I did too. You don't realize how much you miss a character in a book until you are away from it for a while. And that's what I always find when I finish a book, is that you get so into it and that you miss the characters when you're done. I think that's why sequels are so popular, because you get to revisit them, right? Anyway, when we left off, Ruby had her way with Mac. And boy, oh boy, she's a feisty little one. And I think we were all feeling very proud of Ruby, but also relieved that she didn't get hurt. So we're going to carry on. Here we go. And this chapter is called Poor Mac. I'm not sure if any of us feel sorry for him at this point, but who knows. Mac groans. He stumbles to his feet and hobbles off toward his office. Ruby watches him leave. I can't read her expression. Is she afraid? Relieved? Proud? When Mac is gone, George and Julia lead Ruby from the ring. It's okay, baby. It's okay, Julia says, stroking Ruby's head. They settle Ruby in her domain and make sure she has fresh food and water, and before long, Ruby is sound asleep. Dad, Julia asks as George locks Ruby at this iron door, do you think Mac would ever really hurt Ruby? I don't think so, Jules, George says. At least I hope not. Maybe we could call someone. George scratches his chin. I wish I could help Ruby, but I wouldn't know how. I mean, who would I call? The elephant cops? Besides, George looks down. I need this job, Jules. We need this job. Your mom, the doctor bills. He kisses the top of Julia's head. Back to work, you and me both. Julia sighs and reaches for her backpack. She removes a piece of paper, a bottle of water, and a small metal box. Homework first, George says, wagging a finger. Then you can paint. It's for our class, Julia explains. We're doing watercolors. I'm going to paint Ruby. George smiles. All right, then. Just don't forget your spelling. Dad, Julia asks again, did you see Mac's face when Ruby hit him? George nods. Yes, he says solemnly. I did. He shakes his head. Poor Mac. And he turns away, and only then do I hear him laughing. Colors. Julia opens the metal box. I see a row of little squares. Green, blue, red, black, yellow, purple, orange. The colors seem to glow. She pulls out a brush with a thin tuft at its tail and at its end. She dips the brush in water and wets the paper, then taps at the red square. When the brush meets the damp paper, pink petals of color unfurl like morning flowers. I can't take my eyes off that magical brush. For a moment, I'm not thinking about Ruby and Mac and the claw stick and Stella. Almost. Julia touches red again, then blue, and there, suddenly, is the purple of a ripe grape. She touches the blue. Her paper turns to a summer sky, black and white, and now I see that she's painting a picture of Ruby. I can make out her floppy ears, her thick legs. Julia stops painting and she takes a few steps back, hands on her hips, gazing at her work. She scowls. It's not right, she says. She glances over her shoulder at me. I try not to look encouraging. Julia starts to crumple the paper up and then reconsiders. Instead, she slides it into my cage at the spot where my glass is broken. Here you go, she says. A Julia original. That'll be worth millions someday. Gingerly, I pick up the paper. I try not to eat a single bite of it. Oh, hey, I almost forgot. Julia runs back to her backpack and she pulls out 3 plastic jars. 1 yellow, 1 blue, and 1 red. She opens the jars, and an odd, not food smell hits my nose. Julia pushes the jars one by one through the opening, and she slides some paper through. These are called finger paints, she says. My aunt gave them to me, but really, I'm too old for finger painting. I stick a finger into the red jar. The paint is thick as mud. It's cool and smooth, like bananas under my feet. I pop my finger into my mouth. It's not exactly ripe mango, but it's not bad. Julia laughs. You don't eat it, you paint with it. She grabs a piece of paper and she presses her finger on it. See? Like this. I place my finger on the paper, I lift it, and a red mark is there. I get a bigger glob from the pot and I slap my hand down on the page. And when I pull my hand off the paper, its red twin stays behind. This isn't like the ghostly handprints on my glass, the ones my visitors leave behind. This handprint can't so easily be wiped away. Do you want to see it? There it is. Ivan's handprint. A bad dream. I lie awake peeling dried red paint off my fingertips. Bob, who accidentally walked on one of my paintings, is licking his red paws. Every so often I glance over at the empty ring. The claw stick glints in the moonlight. Stop! No! Ruby's frantic cries startle me. Ruby, I call. You're having a bad dream. You're okay. You're safe. Where's Stella? She asks, gulping for air. Before I can answer, she says, Never mind. I remember now. Go back to sleep, Ruby, I say. You've had a hard day. I can't go back to sleep, she says. I'm afraid I'll have the same dream. There was a sharp stick, and it hurt. I look at Bob, and he looks back at me. Oh, Ruby says. Oh, Mac. And she puts her trunk between the bars. Do you think? She hesitates. Do you think Mac is mad because I hurt him today? I consider lying, but gorillas are terrible liars. Probably, I finally say. He ran away after that, Ruby says. Bob gives a scornful laugh. Crawled away is more like it. We are quiet for a while. Branches claw at the roof. A light rain drums. One of the parrots murmurs something in her sleep. Ruby breaks the silence. Ivan? I smell something funny. He can't help it, Bob says. I believe she's referring to the finger paints Julia gave me, I say. What are finger paints? Ruby asks. You make pictures with them, I explain. Could you make a picture of me? Maybe someday. I remember Julia's picture, the one that will be worth $1 million. I hold it up to the glass. Look, it's you. Julia made it. It's hard to see, Ruby says. There's not much moonlight. Why do I have 2 trunks? I examine the picture. Those are feet. Why do I have 2 feet? That's called artistic license, Bob said. Ruby sighs. Could you tell me another story, she asks. I don't think I could ever go back to sleep. I told you all I remember, I say with a helpless shrug. Then tell me a new story, she says, and make something up. I try to think, but my thoughts keep returning to Mac and his claw stick. Anything yet? Ruby asks. I'm working on it. Ivan, Ruby presses. Bob said you're going to save me. I search for true words. I'm working on that too. Ivan, Ruby says in a voice very low. I have another question. I can tell from the sound of her voice that this will be a question I don't want to answer. Ruby taps her trunk against the rusty iron bars of her door. Do you think, she asks, that I'll die in this domain someday like Aunt Stella? Once again I consider lying, but when I look at Ruby, the half-formed words die in my throat. Not if I can help it, he says. I feel something tightening in my chest, something dark and hot. And it's not a domain, I add. I pause, and then I say it again. It's a cage. The story. I look at the ring layered with fresh sawdust. I look at the skylight, at the half-hidden moon. I just thought of a story, I say. Is it a made-up one or a true one, Ruby asks. True, I say. I hope. Ruby leans against the bars. Her eyes hold the pale moon in them, the way a still pond holds the stars. Once upon a time, I say, there was a baby elephant. She was smart and brave, and she needed to go to a place called a zoo. What's a zoo? Ruby asks. A zoo, Ruby, is a place where humans make amends. A good zoo is a place where humans care for animals and keep them safe. Did the baby elephant get to the zoo? Ruby asks softly. I don't answer right away. Yes, I say at last. Well, how did she get there? Asked Ruby. She had a friend, I say. A friend who made a promise. So, are you guys making any predictions in your head? So, this is a made-up story right now. Is it a story that could come true? Are we hoping it could come true? Absolutely. He did make a promise, but how on earth would he ever make this happen? I hope you're thinking. I know the answer. You know that. I don't want to tell you a thing that I'm thinking. How? It takes a long time, but finally Ruby returns to sleep. Ivan, Bob whispers, yawning. What you said about the zoo. How are you going to do it? Suddenly I feel as if I could sleep for 1,000 days. I don't know, I admit. You'll think of something, Bob says confidently, and his voice trailing off as his eyes close. What if I don't? I ask, but Bob is already asleep. A little red feet dance makes me know that he's running in his dreams. Remembering, Bob and Ruby sleep on. I don't sleep. I think about the promise I made to Stella and the pictures I've made for Ruby. And I remember it all. What does he remember? Is this more about his past? I'm going to give you a clue. It is. It's the question we've all been wanting to know. What happened to Ivan's family? And I'm going to answer it next time I send a video. All right, guys. Hope you enjoy. Bye.